Hello, beautiful souls. This is Psychic Medium Susan Schuler. Welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to talk about having a good attitude. I was lucky because of the way that I grew up. My mother was in sales and she was a big listener of Zig Ziglar. And I remember even as like a 13, 14-year-old girl, I remember mom always had all the cassettes always playing about Zig Ziglar and all of his really upbeat, inspirational conversations. And so I grew up listening to that. I grew up with the importance of, I'll meet you at the top and just all of these wonderful sayings that Zig Ziglar had. And I learned very early on that life is about attitude. It's all about, we know we're going to have ups, we're going to have downs. It's just the way that it is. That's life. But it's how we handle it, how we look at it. Are we going to go through something like, oh, poor me, this always happens to me? Or are we going to go through it and sort of look at it like, okay, this wasn't exactly the way that I planned it, but I'm just going to spin my attitude and I'm going to have a positive sort of look at this. And if we send that out to the universe, that's usually the things that we'll get back. It's interesting that I say this about my mother because my father was very different. I remember we had a jukebox at our restaurant, and his favorite song that he always asked me to play when I was playing songs on the jukebox was Ray Charles' Born to Lose. And I think about it now and sort of giggle a little bit. I'm like, if that's your favorite song, what are you really sending out? How do we adjust our attitudes? How do we go from, getting out of bed, stubbing your toe, tripping over the dog, and feeling like the whole day is gone to, just gone to hell? And how do we say to ourselves, okay, well, wait a second. I'm going to take this right now and I'm going to spin it. What always works for me is, first of all, I make sure that I have a smile on my face. I know that sounds kind of silly, but just the simple act of smiling and looking at people in the eye and saying, hi, good morning, how are you? It's almost like psychologically I can fake my happiness and I can fake my positive attitude. And if I fake it long enough, I actually start feeling it. So that's the first thing that I would do, is to just simply put a smile on your face. Also, when I feel like I might need a little bit of an attitude adjustment, I go back to what I'm grateful for. That can really spin me in the best of ways. The other thing that I've noticed that works really well for me when I'm trying to spin my attitude a little bit, sometimes we're all a little narcissistic. And because of that, by taking the energy off of ourselves and placing it in other areas, it tends to lighten us up and make us feel not so self-consumed. Really, the bottom line comes down to, if you want a happy life, there needs to be a certain amount of service for others, to help others. It takes the emphasis off of us and all of the things that we might not have going on in our lives. And it switches our attitude up a bit. It's not that hard to do an attitude shift. It really isn't. And it just is a matter of practice. And once you get good at it, you'll catch yourself when you start being negative. One of the things that I notice that helps me is putting mantras around my house. If you were to walk around and open up drawers and cupboards and things like that, I have mantras all over my house. When I was going through a breakup, the one that read, out of this experience, only good will come, really made it possible for me to keep that smile on my face and make it through one day to the next day. But any kind of positive mantras that you have to remember, our brains are set up in such a way where we are designed, and I mean designed, to go with the worst case scenario. Because back in the days when we were actually being chased by tigers or whatnot, we had to sort of plan ahead with, what's my worst case scenario? Oh, I better run over here, I better do this. So instead of us thinking about the worst case scenario, you have to sort of switch your brain to sort of think, okay, I'm not going to think of what's the bad thing that happens. I'm going to try to think of all the good things that can happen. And that also allows you to sort of switch things up with a more positive attitude. There's so many different tricks that you can do, but if you look around at the people who probably are succeeding the most in life, They're people with good attitudes. They're people that are happy. And that doesn't mean they walk around thinking about unicorns and fairies 24/7. They're gonna get just as much depressed or angry or upset as any of the rest of us. But the difference is they don't stay there. And this is a choice. It's a choice every morning when you wake up, when you're like, okay, how do I want to feel today? That doesn't mean that you're not gonna feel depression. It just means that you're not going to allow yourself to stay there, all right? So I will leave that with you today, and I hope you have the most beautiful of days. Once again, this is Psychic Medium Susan Schuler, and you can find me at mediumsusan.com.